I appreciate you taking time to talk with me, man. I talked with Bella just a couple of days ago, and Zoom messed that up. So
Really?
yeah, so I'm glad we were able to put this together.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, I could talk with you about Infamous. So talk to me a little bit about your decision to tell this particular story because you know we've seen the Bonnie and Clyde thing a bunch of different times, and they all sort of have like the communication of the day, like whether it's
Right.
word of mouth or it's TV, radio, where their kind of celebrity buzz grows. And now we're kind of living in the social media age, and this is one of the first movies to do that. Talk to me about wanting to tell that particular story.
Well, I was interested in the intersection of social media, the kind of what we've seen now as this pursuit of social media fame. I mean, I remember back when it was reality shows, it was like, oh, people are getting famous for being on a reality show now, and now it's like you don't even have to do that. And you see kind of this currency of likes, currency of follows, and the value that's been put on that. And I was interested in the intersection of that with the other thing that America loves, which is crime, and the way in which crime holds such a fascination for America.
Yeah.
And I was struck by the idea, twofold. I was struck by the idea that if this were probably happening in real life, we would all probably be following it. Um, and on the other side of it, in sort of looking back at Bonnie and Clyde, originally I was interested in trying to do a heist movie, and in the process of researching that, eventually you stumble on the Depression era gangsters. And one of the things that struck me about Bonnie and Clyde was the way in which the myth, as we know it, of Bonnie and Clyde was largely a manifestation of the media in an attempt to sell newspapers.
Right.
And they were often blown up to be much bigger than they were. And so in effect, they were sort of those at the time, the outlaws in some ways were a lot of times the very first celebrities in America. And so I coupled with that and wanting to do a crime thriller and wanting to exist in that world and play that game, that felt like an interesting combination. And obviously it's been done before, I know that. But it also felt like it hadn't been done in a long time. And it hadn't been done in a way that applied to, sort of the frankly crass and empty pursuit of social media fame,
Yeah.
and the way in which people are willing to do that. So that's kind of where all that stuff came together. You take sort of a familiar framework that's sort of instantly recognizable, and then you apply, a sort of hopefully a twist on it.
Yeah. How does this compare with working with some of your, smaller films? I think this seems like it's the biggest thing you've done in terms of scope.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about this because you shot this. I mean, the movie takes place mostly in the South and throughout the South, but you shot all of it in Oklahoma.
We
Is that right?
shot for 19 days in Oklahoma, and we shot for 2 days
Wow.
in Florida.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about taking on something of this size.
Yeah, I mean, I think if this were my first feature, I would have broken down and cried and uh, really shit the bed, so to speak. I had done so many smaller movies. The first movie I did was Layover, and I made it for $6,000. But we made that by basically running around LA and never feeling like, not doing what a lot of people do, which is like, let's take two people and put them in one room.
Yep.
Or one location. And so I slowly got to build, in a lot of ways, the ways in which filmmakers don't get to anymore. But I slowly got to slightly get bigger budgets, get a little bit more scope, build it out. I've done plenty of short films with big crews and, all that kind of thing. And so at the time when I was writing this, I was looking to do quote unquote a digital movie. You had a lot of these companies like Lionsgate and Legendary with these digital arms making these $2 to $3 million movies. And I was sort of seeing them and I was being pitched them. And I was kind of like, maybe there's a different way to do this. And I really wanted something that was both me, that I written, that I created, and also had a budget to back it up. But I also wanted to be kind of bold with it, and try and do something that a lot of the movies, at this budget range, aren't doing, so the types of action scenes we're doing, the road movie aspect of it, the scope of it, never going back to a single location. Um, it was extremely challenging, in the doing of it. But I feel like I was able to build up experience in how to do it and how to pull it off, um, and bring a lot of that sort of micro budget sensibility to a slightly bigger budget, setup.
One of the things I told Bella that I really liked about the film, because she was funny. She asked me straight out what was my favorite thing about it, and I was like, okay, well, I'll tell you. Um, I really dug the dynamic between Ariel and Dean, which was a little bit different than we see in these movies.
Yeah.
You look at him, and he looks like he's rough around the edges, whatever. But he's actually sort of the most level-headed of the two,
Yeah.
which is interesting. It's usually the other way around. It's usually not how it goes. Talk to me about kind of making a choice to kind of flip the dynamic between the two central characters.
Yeah. I'm drawn to female leads, and female driven content. I mean, I'd say of the 4 features I've made, 3 of them are distinctly female driven. And the other one is sort of a split, probably would be leaning more on her being the interesting party. And so in this, again, also you look at the Bonnie and Clyde aspect, and you look at so many of those movies, Bonnie's supporting, right? Bonnie's the sort of secondary character. And I'm drawn to the notion of female characters that are not restricted by all those things that tend to restrict them, right? Like not being emotional, not having female rage, not having strength. And so for this, it felt like a good way to do it. And I just kind of wanted to write a female character that was really fucking out there, and really push the limit of it, and then flip that and have the guy sort of be the one who's like, I don't know, like, should we be doing this? Like, he's got a little bit more of the depth and the soul to him.
Yeah.
I would argue, whereas for her, I really wanted to craft somebody that was just the embodiment of it, of what I felt this pursuit of fame was, and just have a lot of fun with it, and give an actress a role to come in on that was not a girlfriend or a wife or anything that they had really seen before, but was something really unique and that they could really sink their teeth into. And Bella was an obvious choice for that. Yeah. And I think she attacked it with gusto.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It was quite a role for her. Talk to me about choosing her for this role. I mean, she's so good for it, and I think her own celebrity kind of adds a little something to it. Like it comes with a certain, like it's not necessarily part of the film, but it brings a certain mental baggage to it that you're like, she's really okay. This is really right for her.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about her and sort of the chemistry she has with Jake Manley, because they're both really great together.
Yeah. Thank you. Bella came on early. She was, we ended up getting to her through her manager. One of our producers knows him really well. And he knew that she was looking for stuff from sort of younger writer directors. And so we sent her the script. I had originally thought of her when I wrote it, but I was like, I don't think we'll ever get her. Particularly because, it's a really unapologetic, aggressive, unsympathetic role. Yeah. Right. And there's understandably, there are a lot of people that may not want to be seen that way, right, or play that role. Mm-hmm. And so with her, I always thought, based on what she had done before, that she might be open to it. And so we ended up going to her, and she read the script, and we had a conversation about it, and we both saw eye to eye. And she came on board about a year before we started shooting. So the advantage to that was we had a lot of time together to build out this character, understand each other, get to know each other, who she is, who I am, how I work, how she works. So that by the time we got on set, because we didn't have a lot of prep time with each other, she was in Europe, like right before we started shooting. We were able to just kind of very easily go into it because we had done all that work ahead of time. And she was gusto for it. And at the same time, that was the thing, which was like, with her, there was no teaching of what this experience was like for the character. There was no, this is what it's like to be commented on negatively all the time, or this is what it's like to be supported positively all the time. Like this is the pursuit of it, right? Like she very much got that. In fact, like one of the things that we did was, we were never going to get permission from from Twitter or Facebook or any of these companies to allow us to use their branding.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do something where it was like, let's create a fake company, like face,
Right.
like who cares about that? It's going to instantly make it fake. And so, but one of those things was thinking about, well, how are we going to sort of visualize the comments? And I really didn't want to just do comments on a white background where they're static and they're way you usually see them, because it's just like, it's not interesting. And so one thing that we did, because we couldn't rely on the branding and the visual imagery of it, we were like, well, let's lean into the psychology of it. And one of the things that Bella told me was when she's looking at comments, when she's reading comments, whether they're positive or negative, they are like in your face, bright red, like screaming at you. Yeah. And they're flying by rapidly and it's hitting you with such force. And she was like, you should think about doing the full frame graphics as a way of getting that across. And I was really excited about that idea because it spoke to the true experience for people that are influencers and the way in which the public is perceived by them as they're commenting and all this kind of stuff. But also it then really kind of, my hope was it kind of would start to fuck with the audience in terms of it just being so rapid and so in your face and so like you can't ever land on it. And that maybe you're internalizing it without really perceiving it. And that maybe it would make you feel uncomfortable, or maybe it would make you feel awkward, or maybe it would make you just feel like stressed or something like that. And in that way, we could sort of live in the world of the psychology of social media and not date ourselves by relying on branding that might change in a year. Yeah, so Bella's experience in that and the knowledge of that brought a lot to the character and a lot to the world.
You said that Bella came in early. When did Jake come in, and how did they sort of get their bond, in order to play these two roles together? Because they really do work really well together on screen.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was a lot of fun to shoot him and just let him go. Jake came on a couple months before we started shooting. Once Bella was on board and we secured the financing, then it was about, okay, let's find our guy, let's find our Dean. And, you go through that normal casting process. Jake was actually somebody we went to early, and he had to turn it down because we were originally going to shoot in May, and he was on another movie. And when we ended up having to push, which thank God we did, because I think May was like the rainiest month in Oklahoma last year, and tornadoes and all that stuff. So once we pushed to July, his schedule opened up and we went back to him. And Jake was somebody who, came into this from the beginning, just really loving the role and really loving, again, as a filmmaker, you want to write things for people that are things they don't normally do. And so this was not a character Jake had ever played before. The character, of Amber Riley's character was a character she had never really played before. And the fact that we weren't asking her to sing in the movie was probably, exciting for her because, she's an actress in her own right. And so with Jake, it was Jake's idea to dye his hair, and he then spent some time with Bella, because I'm in New York and Bella and Jake are both in LA. So they were able to get together. And it was very easy from the get-go, and they were very comfortable around each other and they both understood what it was. And so, it wasn't something, thankfully, that we had to direct or we had to create or I had to force. Like, all right, guys, I know you hate each other off screen, but you need to like each other for this moment. And what that allowed us to do was it allowed us to kind of just capture a lot of these moments without it having to be too thought out ahead of time. Like I could say, okay, let's just run over to this field. We need to get you guys messing around and playing around. And because that natural chemistry was already there, it was very easy to flip the camera on and not be, and get what we needed to get very quickly. And thus sort of expand that scope because we were able to capture so much footage.
How is what's going on in the world right now kind of impacted distribution of the film? I mean, everything's kind of crazy right now for filmmakers and distributors. How's that impacted Infamous?
Yeah, I mean, the craziest thing is you shoot, you write this movie 4 years ago, you shoot it a year ago, you finish editing it in January. You finish the movie's done in January. And then it's like all of a sudden COVID hits, all of a sudden all this stuff starts coming in. And so for us, it was interesting because with a movie like this, you would have typically done this kind of like 25 theater, release, but mostly it's a digital release.
Mhm.
And the thing about that is it's cool to see it in the theater, but nobody goes to see that, right? Nobody. It's like when you're up against Fast and Furious and Jurassic Park or like whatever it is, like nobody's going to see the small indie movie that's playing in 25 theaters, And so what's weird, and I obviously what's going on is terrible and people are dying, and the response to it has been abysmal, and we should not be in this position. But from a very granular level, it gave the movie a shot when it might not normally have had one. I think even we were anticipating the idea that people were going to be stuck at home. So great, it's a digital release. Like people are going to be looking for content in June and still looking for something to watch. What I never anticipated was the 56 drive-ins that it was going to play in.
Right.
That was a very sort of like last 2 weeks before release surprise to me. And the fact that it's done very well in drive-in, I think it's a great drive-in movie. But the fact that it's done very well in drive-ins, and even on Friday, I got to go see it on the big screen, was a big surprise. And so it's cool because everybody wants their movie seen on a big screen.
Mm-hmm.
But even the resurgence of drive-ins has been exciting. And to kind of be in some very small way a part of that is definitely very exciting. I think that, there's also the concern about a lot of the stuff going on with Black Lives Matter, and sort of what we're doing in the movie and the police and all that kind of things. Again, like you don't plan for that. You could never plan for that.
Yeah.
And my hope is people just can separate the two because one is not about the other.
Right.
But it's been interesting. It's been really different. The fact that we were, the number 2 overall movie in America is something that would have happened, before. And I think that, it's been fun for me in seeing some of the reactions to see how divided it is, in a big way. It's kind of seems to be either 5 stars or 1 star. And that's in some ways a very heated reaction on either side of it. And that's what you kind of hope for,
It's got people talking, and that's
got people talking.
That's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
And but before I let you go, what have you got anything on the burner that you're thinking about already? Something you want to do next?
Yeah, I got a couple projects. Nothing that I can announce, unfortunately. But it was interesting because coming off of I keep wanting to call it Southland. It was originally called Southland. Coming off of Infamous, I was kind of starting to go into a development period of working on the next thing, and it's just been extended because of COVID. But obviously, the big question now is how do you get back to work? How do you do it safely? So there's a number of things in the works, but I don't know if we're even going to find ourselves on set until either late this year, but definitely, or possibly early 2021. But, so we'll see where we get. But there's some fun stuff, and Infamous has been a real boon for me, career wise. And it's been exciting to bring it to people and see what they think.
Well, congratulations on the movie's early success and hopefully continued success. So, and thanks for taking time with me for this. Like I said before, it came together quickly, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. No, look, when you're a filmmaker and you're making a movie, your biggest dream is that people see it, and so the fact that you took the time, and not only that, you took the time to review it, you took the time to talk to me, like means a lot. I really appreciate it. And it's been a pleasure.
All right, man. Well, whatever you do next, hope I get to talk to you again about it, man.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks,
all right, stay safe.
All right. Bye.
Bye.